Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and this is part 2 to my Q&A video I did a few weeks ago, and this has just been kind of slow putting together. And keeping my eye open for questions, and I like looking for questions and comments from my subscribers because I learn a lot. I'm not knowledgeable in every single subject. I think that's an impossibility as far as ancient history goes. But I kind of like making these kind of videos just because I can just sit back and talk to you as a normal human being, lose some of the arrogance and confidence that seeps into some of my videos. But seems I have a lot of new subscribers these days, so let me just tell you a little bit about my philosophy as far as making videos, and it's a little bit different. A lot of my friends really can't put together my YouTube persona and who I am in real life. I'm the most laid-back, non-serious person in my real life. And ancient history, I just kind of get into the zone where I talk about it, and I guess confidence seeps through at times. And especially on those videos where I think history has totally failed you people, that's when I really kind of am at my sternest. And sometimes my comments, I'll be short with people, and I don't really like doing that. And it all depends as far as comments with me. It all depends on my mood. If I'm in a good mood, I usually don't care about comments. If it's before coffee, you might get a grouchy comment. But sometimes when I upload videos, if I'm not doing anything, I like corresponding with my subscribers because I learn a lot. And sometimes I'll upload a video and I won't look at it for a day just because I'm occupied with other things. And lately, as far as messages and comments, I've been pretty much overwhelmed. I think in the last 7 days I've had 250,000 views and 1,000 comments. And when you're running the show all by yourself and you just do it in your spare time, it gets a little overwhelming. And I don't feel great about not getting back to people. But I have checked and I've seen your messages at least, and I know I've gotten back to a few of you people. And Facebook messages, I look at that maybe once every other day, or maybe a couple times a week, just because YouTube has totally overwhelmed me, and that's all I look at. So if you send me a message, I will look at it. If I don't get back to you, it's not because I haven't read it. Just wanted to say that. But I've had a lot of comments and questions, obviously, on my Gobekli Tepe was buried video from last week. That has gone over 100,000 views, and I find the response pretty overwhelming. And there's been questions on that, and a lot of people are saying, I totally believe this, you are exactly right. And me as an uploader, I think I mentioned this in my last video, I don't care about being right. For one reason, how are we ever going to know? Historians can't even wrap their heads around what happened 2,000 years ago. So how is anybody putting out theories on subject matter going to be deemed correct? So that isn't something I worry about. The only thing that I try to do is put out videos based on what the ancients were telling us what happened. A lot of ancient text and hieroglyph videos relate to that. So I don't care about being right, and I even don't care if you people believe. It's about provoking thought. And maybe somebody will take what I said and carry it further to what they have researched and kind of tied things together. So I really don't put out videos to be absolutely correct or have you people believe them 100%. It's about providing the best evidence available. And when you do that, usually your videos will fall within the region of truth. And I have had questions on people who want to start their own channels and just what advice I can give them. Well, I think the best thing that I learned is once you get done talking and putting together your evidence and trying to make it explainable and presentable, once you hit the upload button to make it public, don't care about your video. Just you have done all your work putting together the video. Once you upload it, don't care about it. People, say, well, they don't care about dislikes and likes, and then Obviously they do, and that's clear. But the best advice I can give to you, just don't care about your videos after you upload them, because you have done all you can do and all that you can control. And just let the results, lie where they may. Before I get into some questions here, I went over some questions that I've had repeated, and especially on other channels and books I like. I went over those in my first Q&A video. I just wanted to mention that. Now, speaking of books, here is a clip I recorded while I'm recording this video. So, welcome to my world. Now, I always like getting book recommendations, and this is Graham Hancock's Magicians of the Gods, and this is the way a good book should look. Nothing drives me crazy. Nothing drives me as crazy as going into somebody's house and they have a huge bookshelf full of books that have never been read. That drives me a little nuts. This is the way a good book should look, and I can't recommend this one enough, especially if you want to learn about the events of 12,900 years ago and 11,600 years ago, and Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson's combined work. This book is really the first mainstream, not mainstream, is that the correct word? But the first book that goes into detail, Randall Carlson's great work. But I highly recommend this. This is a fantastic book, and once again, I did go over some of my favorite books in my previous Q&A video, but this is the way a good book should look, and this is a great compliment to Mr. Hancock, how much I have used this. And yeah, this is where I make videos in the morning, big cup of coffee, some fruit. I did babble. But I have had a lot of interest in this video, the reason Gobekli Tepe was buried, and I want to go into a few of those questions. First of all, now one of the main questions I have had on Gobekli Tepe is the age and the intentional burying of it. And how do we know it was intentionally buried? Because I don't think people really, based on the questions, I don't think they've really listened and understood why they think it was buried intentionally about 10,000 years ago. So I'm just going to play just a brief clip here of Robert Schoch talking, and he's a geologist that most people seem to respect a lot. So let me just play a clip from a video explaining the dating and the burial of Gobekli Tepe. Now I'm just going to screenshot a clip here from a video I did maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, and this is Robert Schoch talking about the burial of Gobekli Tepe.
Doing is literally peeling back the layers, and this is important from my point of view as a geologist and stratigrapher, because how a site is covered over, how the dirt is stratified, how the dirt is layered, how it's jumbled versus layered is very, very important for figuring out the history of that site. So I was very convinced that his scenario of it being purposefully covered over is absolutely the case. And as he's peeling away these layers, he's been sampling. So he samples the different layers. He samples different material in the different layers. You can sample material that the layers are composed of. So you find bits of charcoal and bone, other types of material that has carbon in it. So this is useful for carbon dating, radiometric dating, radiocarbon dating. So if you find a piece of bone, for instance, or a piece of charcoal in the material that was used to fill in the site, you can date that. That essentially dates the material that was used to fill it in. The second major point is that once it is covered over with the material, you start to form soil, you start to have natural processes taking place that, for instance, will dissolve out some of the calcite. There's a lot of limestone in this area. A lot of the debris and rubble is limestone or has calcite in it. The major pillars are made out of calcite. Calcite dissolves with rainwater. It dissolves slowly, but quite perceptibly. If anyone's looked at, for instance, a very old cathedral, they may see how it looks like the limestone looks like it's melting. So it actually dissolves, and then it reprecipitates out. You see this in caves all the time with the formation of stalactites, stalagmites. That calcite from the rock reprecipitating out. Now this happens in the case of Gobekli Tepe in the soils that form in the layer of rubble, the layer of overburden that was used to cover it over. So this starts forming after it's covered over as it forms soil, as it's rained on, and the calcite itself can be carbon dated. And by carbon dating that, we can get a fix on when it was completely covered over, because this will start forming after it's completely covered over, and it takes some time also. It takes at least a couple of centuries and continues to form.
Well, I hope you understood a lot of that. I know that wasn't the greatest audio, but you're just sitting here with me today, sitting on my computer today, and we're just listening and talking about stuff. But preservation, if you're going to cover something over, it's for preserving something. And I think this was such an important place, obviously, because the time and effort put into erecting these pillars and carving those little animals in bas relief, which is really hard to do. All the time, all the effort, all the importance, it was covered over to preserve it so future people wouldn't destroy it, or maybe future developments around this place. And this place is pretty highly elevated, so what they were exactly trying to preserve it from, that is a great question, but I just don't think they wanted it destroyed. And obviously, maybe for people down the line to uncover it and trying to figure out what were happening to people back then. Now, since I usually show the ancient ruins on Google Earth if I can, and I didn't on my Gobekli Tepe videos, this is where Google Earth takes you into as far as Gobekli Tepe, and I guess this is it right here, because they have roofs over it now, but I'm a little bit confused on Google Earth to the exact site, but I'm assuming this is where it is here. But let's just go down and take a look at this landscape. Now, here is the area around Gobekli Tepe, what it looks like. I think this is looking north, and I think where only partial excavations are done, they maybe have them marked with certain letters, maybe. But this is what the landscape looks like today. And I guess there's a walkway, and they've been putting in cement in Gobekli Tepe, and check out Matt over at Ancient Architects for his video on that subject. That'll surely get people's blood boiling, but this will give you an idea of how high up Gobekli Tepe is and the current landscape. That'll give you a good idea. Now, I've had questions as far as this area relating to biblical text. Now, where is Abraham from? He's from ancient Ur. Is that somewhere way off in Iraq? Or is that present-day Sanlurfa? Ancient Urfa? Clearly, to me, it is. And Abraham went from Ur. Where did he go initially? Ancient Haran, which is right here. Was the first leg of his journey way off in Iraq, all the way to ancient Haran? Or was the first leg of his journey, I think is how it goes, from here, maybe 20 or 25 miles to here. But that is enough on Gobekli Tepe. I just want to thank everybody for their interest in this. That's pretty overwhelming. And I might be coming out with more on this subject in the future. One thing that was happening around the time period when this got buried that I never mentioned, the comet Hale-Bopp was visible right around this time period. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Now, the first question I just want to answer before I go to some clips that I've already recorded. People have asked me, where are you from? You sound like you're from Canada or something. Well, I'm from Minnesota, and I haven't mentioned this, but it was nice meeting all you Minnesota Wild fans that were out here a couple weeks ago watching the Minnesota Wild beat our Las Vegas Golden Knights. And it was fun talking to all you people and hearing about how the crappies are biting on Minnetonka, you know. Ice out will come early this year, you know, and we'll get up to the lake. And probably after ice out, check out the rock points. Maybe with some Lindy rigs and some shiners. But It sounds all very exciting and very cold to me. Now, I mentioned blocking people in one of my last videos. And that's something I never like to do. And it's just come down to the fact I don't have much time. And I'm overwhelmed as it is. And I just don't have any time for any bullshit. So, if you're totally rude, totally disrespectful, you're going to get blocked and blocked immediately. Now, if you just leave a comment that contradicts what I say, and you do it without being rude or offensive, that's perfectly fine with me. I have many comments on my videos that have great points, and I read them, and there's no problem with that. Now, I want to thank just a few of you in particular, and ever since the events of last October 1st, have sent messages and just, how you doing? How's the city doing? How you doing? And those are just super appreciated. It's something that I try not to think about too much, but it's always in the back of my mind. And I did videos down here in the day after, and I wasn't really totally affected fully until I did this video and I talked to relatives of the victims, and that's when it all sunk in for me. And as I said, making these videos in the early days of October, the people who make the videos that try to deflect away from the fact that dozens of people were murdered are really the scummiest people on YouTube. But I just want to thank those people who took the time out to send me those messages and seemed to care. And I was down at that concert the evening of. I wasn't there when it happened, but I was affected greatly. Now here is a video I did on the labyrinth in ancient Hawara. I'll just run this as I talk, but I've had a lot of questions. So after looking at all these sites in Egypt, what is your opinion? What do you think the timeline is? Well, I think that's a very good question. And at first I was looking at like pre-dynastic, the original builder gods, and then the ancient Egyptians maybe adding to these structures. But now I'm beginning to think maybe we have more than a couple different periods of construction and reconstruction. And part of the problem is that we can't find a single purpose for these because maybe there is multiple purposes. And then these buildings get added onto, and the whole thing just becomes a jumbled mess. But maybe we have the builder gods, the original people. Then we maybe have pre-dynastic people doing stuff. Then maybe the Egyptians coming along and doing stuff. We maybe have 3-4 periods of history building in here. But this is a confusing mystery for sure. Now I've had a question besides around Giza here. Were there any other sites built by the people who built the pyramids in Egypt? Well, I think there is a great possibility for one. I think it may come from 9, 10,000, 11,000 years ago. And that is Baalbek. And in this video, I showed you if you do a line through the corners of the Great Pyramid, where does that line fall? If you continue it to the northeast, well, it points directly at the temple we know today as the Temple of Baalbek. Now I've had comments on some of my music videos. I didn't subscribe to you for music videos. Oh, I know I only put out 3 or 4 history videos a week. And if you can't follow my history videos and separate them from my music videos when I clearly have a playlist, well, you will never understand anything I go into in my videos if that's too difficult for you. And those are the most ungrateful comments I can get. You will be blocked immediately. What idiots. And I just want to thank the people for the great comments on some of my music videos. And they are finding that some of these people I know are pretty damn talented. And some comments on some of my videos, well, I think maybe people find them a little inappropriate. But I know I have a lot of male subscribers. And I know in the middle of winter, those aren't the most unappealing videos that they can find from people they subscribe to. I'll just say that. And certainly, you weren't expecting Kumbaya on a weekend night video from the Las Vegas Strip. Now, to answer a whole bunch of questions at once, and I've had specific questions, have you made a video on this site or this site or this site? Let's go through my Ancient Civilization playlist, and I will leave links for some of this stuff below. But just some of the sites I've covered: Baalbek, Karahunj, Yonaguni, Adam's Calendar, Mohenjo-Daro. I go into some of what they say on ancient aliens. Nanvidal, Sagmatar, El Dorado. I have had more than a couple questions on El Dorado and the cities of gold. What do I think about El Dorado? Well, when you're looking for El Dorado, I think what you have to do, obviously, if you're trying to figure out where El Dorado is, where did the Spanish go in their next expedition after they found out about the legend of El Dorado? Well, they went to a city called, what we know today as Tiwanaku in Pumapunku, a city that was once covered in gold. It's pretty clear to me where El Dorado was. Gunung Padang, the 20,000-year-old possible pyramid in Indonesia. I've done about 3 or 4 videos on that. Here's a video I did, Gobekli Tepe and the Hopi Ant people, where I don't remember when I talk about it in a lot of these, but I think I go into myths and legend about people living underground. And just some of them. Adam's Calendar and Michael Tellinger's work on the stone circles. I have made a few videos of those where I go over Google Earth ruins. This one from Ethiopia, these stones that have similar symbolism to the stones at Gobekli Tepe in Easter Island and a few other places. Those of you who like John Anthony West, a whole series, a whole playlist of videos with him. And Karahan Tepe, site like Gobekli Tepe. But here, Corral in Peru, I've done a few on Stonehenge and the ruins on Google Earth. The Bosnian Pyramid, I mentioned that in my Q&A Part 1 video, where the Bosnian Pyramid, I just don't know what to think. But Cahokia and a lot of places, Serpent Mound, the Winnemucca Lake petroglyphs, and the Lovelock Cave mummies, where I go over the giants, my thoughts on giants, and just in review. I have no problem with large people being found because there is evidence of it, but in all of my investigation, they were between maybe high 6 foot, maybe around 6'10", to 7'3". They were very tall people. Were they giants? No. Maybe the term should be just as large as the largest humans today. Giants? I haven't found clear evidence, confirming evidence that giants were found, but other people have researched this more than I have. Now, going in, Angkor Wat is one that I featured, but here is a whole bunch of videos that I've done on many different sites. Sigiriya and other sites that I have noticed that other channels make videos on. Now, just going a little further on in this playlist, I've had questions asked to me about the hieroglyphs at Abydos that appear to depict what they say is a helicopter and a submarine. Well, now that I am familiar with hieroglyphs, I think I can explain away at least 75% of that. Clearly, there is hieroglyphs used by the Egyptians and common ones that are used in that. And I can explain most of it away. Most of it. I have been asked about the Paracas candelabra, and I might be making a video, and I just showed it, I think. This is just a very short video I did on it. And those of you who are not familiar with it, it appears to show like a candelabra is how it is described, or a thunderbolt carved in the side of the mountain at Peru, and I may be coming out with a little more on that. Now here is a video I did, and Uparts, I think they are called, out-of-place artifacts. What are your thoughts on that? And if some of you aren't familiar with out-of-place artifacts, those are artifacts, maybe something that's clearly man-made, maybe something made out of some sort of metallic object that shows some high degree of technology that was found in a layer of earth that was maybe 1 million years old. And if you're not familiar with Michael Cremo, he's the guy I would go to on that subject. My thoughts on that? It's a little difficult. I don't know what to think. But the theory that humans have been around really all the time, I can't dismiss that. And Michael Cremo has some pretty convincing work that the history of human civilization doesn't just go back tens of thousands of years, but possibly a long, long time. Now, a lot of my older videos, some of them are just set to music where I show you around, but Petra is a site I covered, and probably a site I'm going to be talking about in the future. And I have questions. I've had questions. Do you have a video on your shroud research that is like an overall compilation? And no. And I might be coming out with that. It isn't something that I have continued to research that much, since I'm thoroughly 100% convinced that I found his tomb and sarcophagus last fall. But I did find a church, and the artwork, I can explain every mural in it, and I might be including that in a wrap-up video, and I might be including Petra in that video. Just thought I'd throw that in there. But this Ancient Civilization playlist has hundreds of videos in it. The Karnak stones, Easter Island, a lot of places in ancient America, the Hopewell culture. I talk about ruins found in St. Paul, Minnesota, that were in some mounds that the people had excavated because they wanted a better view of the river. Pricks. The Great Walls of California. The Blythe and Telios, ancient petroglyphs that are thousands and thousands of years old, found in California. Just a few of the videos I've covered in ancient America. Now, I have had questions on Mars. What are my thoughts on Mars? My thoughts on ruins? Well, I have done a video here a long time ago. This is what I found, and I uploaded it, and I haven't watched this for a really, really long time. But to me, that looks pretty cool. Pyramid on Mars? Well, I'm not sure. And I don't even know where this is anymore because that's on an old computer. And here is a video I made, I don't know, 3 years ago. And it's muted because I can't stand listening to some of my old videos the way I talk. And I have had criticism. Boy, you really suck as a talker. And, well, talking is something that I was totally uncomfortable with. And I have even said I'm not a good speaker, per se. So this is something that's always been uncomfortable for me, but I try my best. But some of these early videos I can't even listen to. But I did talk on this video. Whatever I said, explore Mars, find weird stuff. I'm kind of curious what I found here, because I haven't watched this for literally 3 years. But I think I'll watch that a little later. But if you just explore my channel for Mars. Alright, yeah. What the heck do I find here? Some sort of object. But, yeah, I've talked about Mars. I find it interesting. Since we can't even wrap our heads around what happened on this planet, I don't dismiss anything coming from other planets. Now, I've had questions asked about King Tut's tomb and what might be behind a wall in there. And I did a video about 3 or 4 years ago on an 18th dynasty, I think it was Amenhotep III, and some tombs that were in the Valley of the Kings, but tomb looting was always a problem. And it started way back in history, probably to pre-dynastic times maybe even. But the 18th dynasty, when that powerful kingdom got going and they decided to bury their pharaohs in the Valley of the Kings, those tombs were pretty intricate, and they put hidden chambers in there because they knew of the tomb looting problem way back then. And a lot of these very old, huge sarcophagus that are totally empty, or have clearly stuff put in them by the dynastic Egyptians, mummified bowls and that sort of thing. Well, was there something in those ancient sarcophagus way back when? Well, if there was, it was taken out of there thousands and thousands of years ago. But if there was something in those massive, unexplainable sarcophagus at one time, it probably disappeared 3, 4, 5,000 years ago. I think the very earliest Egyptians, when they discovered these things, whatever in them was sacred, even a little scrap. So if there was something in those massive sarcophagus, it disappeared a long, long time ago. And that's why the mystery is truly great. Now, I've had a lot of questions sent to me about Orion, and not just the alignments of the pyramid, but is there any other significance of Orion in ancient cultures that you haven't talked about or that you have talked about? Well, I made a lot of videos on Orion, and the ancient text, it's clear what the significance of Orion was, but I found this one very interesting. This is just one of the things I found in the past months, but seems a temple in India is all about the cosmic dancer, and it's all about Orion. And here they match up the dancing figure of Nataraja to the stars in Orion, and it matches perfectly. So this seems to make sense. I will leave this website below. This is just one of the many things I have found, and it kind of shows how the stars are looked at different ways in different cultures. But I have also been asked about astrology and how far back does that go, and we really don't know. We don't know if the people at Gobekli Tepe looked at the stars the same way. And the more I look at the stars, there seems to be more than just patterns involved in the naming of the ages. But here, Orion, very important. And I was looking at Orion the other night in the night sky on my way home, and it's just beaming some nights. I live about maybe 4,000 feet above sea level, and on clear nights up here in Summerlin, you can see the stars pretty well. And the other night I looked up, and there was Orion just beaming, but it's appeared to me to be holding the moon. And I hadn't seen the moon in that position before in regards to Orion, and it stopped me in my tracks, and I was just overcome by the feeling that that had to be important at some time. But how far back does astrology go? Well, that's a great question. Seems to me that maybe 12,000 years ago they didn't look at the stars the same way we did. And if the people at Gobekli Tepe went to go live underground at Derinkuyu, wouldn't they put some symbolism in here that maybe they went to live underground? Maybe they would depict a creature that lives underground in symbolism, telling you the fact that they went to live in a subterranean existence, something like a scorpion on this pillar. Does this have to do with the stars, or does this tell us they went to live underground? Now, I've had questions on the stone spheres found in Costa Rica and other places. My thoughts on these? Well, honestly, I have no clue. Now, one question I had is, can you make any more videos where you read from the ancient text? I find those interesting. Well, here is one I made May 19th of 2017, and I never uploaded it, where I just go over the symbolism of the boat that they sail on the Celestial Nile, the Milky Way on. And I didn't upload this, and if this isn't edited properly, so be it. But I will leave a link for this below. It's unlisted. I never uploaded it, and if you want to listen to it, I'll leave the link below. Now, I've had questions on the Toba eruption around 75,000 years ago, and the bottleneck that seemed to happen to human civilization at this time period. Have I looked into this? Yes. And I might be going more into this, and also ancient flood myths from around the world. And what I have really found, what do the ancient flood myths encode or talk about that's cross-culture? Well, we seem to have giant waves that have swept across the earth. We seem to have significant rainfall. And from some text, I think there is one tale coming from ancient Peru. And I talked about the crab and the great bird from China and the age of Cancer causing the great flood. Well, in Peru, it seems they have the story of the great bird and the whale, where the great bird picks up the whale and drops the whale into the ocean in a competition with another bird to see how high they can make the waves sweep across the land. I find that pretty interesting. And I have had comments, well, the Great Flood, all you have to do is look at the Bible. Well, that is one place. But what I am doing is I'm looking at all 200 flood myths from around the world, and I'm going to have a video coming out that goes into the details of those. And they talk about objects falling, and thunder, and water sweeping across the earth. and then an incredible rainfall. But those are some of the questions I have had asked to me. And once again, ancient America is a fascinating place, and I've been asked about the Templars and their possible voyages to America. Well, you're just going to have to wait for that video to come out. When you don't have a clear story of what happened, you have to take the little evidence that you do have and connect it somehow and make it presentable. I'm going to be making a video on a voyage to America, and I'm going to make it pretty comprehensive, and I'm going to go into details based on the little we know. But I hope you thought this Q&A video was interesting. I'll probably be making another one. I accidentally erased a portion of this, so there was a few questions that can't quite recall that I went over, but I enjoy doing this. It's a way to keep in touch with my subscribers. Hope you thought this was cool, and you all have a very nice day.